Hello guys, welcome to Global Happenings. Today we have a trending news here for you, and the headline of the news reads: Nigerians to face worse than visa ban from 27 EU countries, see reasons. But before we continue with details of the news and further analysis, we would like to encourage you to please subscribe to our channel by clicking on the red subscribe button and also on the bell icon so that you can get notification anytime we publish videos on YouTube. All right, let's look at the news in detail. The European Union says it can impose restrictive visa implementation rules on Nigeria if it fails to play its part in the return and readmission of its national staying illegally in the EU. The EU, which comprises Germany, Italy, Spain, France, and 23 other countries, further stated that although it would not place a visa ban on Nigeria, it could make it visa more difficult for Nigerian applicants if Nigeria fails to meet its standard. The EU spokesperson for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Ms. Virginia Batu-Henriksen, said this in an email on Tuesday. Recall that the United States had last month imposed immigrant visa ban on Nigeria and 5 other countries. Under the new policy, citizens of the affected countries will not be allowed to apply for visa to immigrate to the U.S. under the policy aimed at tightening security for countries that don't comply with the U.S. minimum security standard or cooperate to prevent illegal immigration. According to the Department of Homeland Security, Nigeria presents a high risk relative to other countries in the world of terrorist travel to the U.S. The U.S. further stated that Nigeria did not adequately share public safety and terrorism-related information which is necessary for the protection of the national security and public safety of the U.S. Following the U.S. action, the federal government set up a committee headed by the Minister of Interior, Rao Aregbesola, to ensure that Nigeria meet requirements the U.S. said were not in place. On February 5th, the committee met with the U.S. Consular General in Abuja with a view to addressing issues raised in the visa ban. On Tuesday, the U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Ms. Mary Leonard, explained that the U.S. ban was not permanent, adding that it was subject to review if certain conditions were made. But while Nigeria is struggling with the U.S. visa ban, the EU said it could impose restrictive visa implication rules on it. When asked if the EU has had challenges Nigeria was trying to resolve with the U.S., Batu-Henriksen said Nigerians still place among the top 10 nationalities detected as staying irregularly in the EU, even though the number of Nigerians traveling irregularly to the EU has dropped. She said the Nigerian criminal network remain active in EU. The EU spokesperson said Nigerians still place among the top 10 nationalities detected as staying irregularly on the EU territory, although the number of Nigerians entering the EU regularly declined drastically last year. Nigerian criminal network remained active in Europe, and Nigeria remained the main non-EU country of origin for victims of trafficking, mainly women registered in the EU. When asked if the EU would be giving Nigeria the American treatment, she said Nigeria could face a restriction if certain criteria were not met. Batu-Henriksen stated that Nigeria did not play its part in the readmission of its citizens living illegally in the EU. Then strict measures could be put in place. She said what the EU could do if Nigeria failed to meet its criteria was to adopt the rule on processing short-stay visa application. The EU spokesperson stated what the EU can do since new rules on short-stay visas to the EU become applicable on 2nd February 2020 is to adopt the rules on processing short-stay visa application depending on whether a non-EU country cooperates satisfactorily on the return and readmission of their nationals staying irregularly in EU. Under the new rule, the EU Commission will regularly assess the level of cooperation of non-EU countries on the readmission of irregular immigrants. If the level of cooperation is insufficient, the Commission, together with member states, can decide on the temporary, more restrictive implementation of certain provisions of the visa code. This could have an impact on the processing time, the length of validity of the visa to be issued, the level of the visa fee to be charged, and the fee waivers. It is important to note that this mechanism does not amount to a visa ban and does not call into question the right to submit an application for a visa or to be granted a visa. It only allows for a more restrictive implementation of some of the visa rules. These concern short-stay visa to the Schengen area, covering stay of up to 90 days in any 180-day period. Batu Henriksen recalled that in 2016, an EU Council decision authorized. Batu Henriksen recalled that in 2016, an EU Council decision authorized the opening of negotiation on readmission agreement with Nigeria, making it only the second country in West Africa with which the EU was negotiating such a formal agreement. The readmission agreement seeks to ensure that Nigerians traveling to the EU take only the legal route. It also seeks to ensure that Nigeria is able to readmit its citizens living illegally in the EU. According to her, it is our important interest to work on dissuading migrants to take dangerous irregular routes to EU and risk exploitation. Return and readmissions are part of working on this common endeavor, she said. All right, and looking at this, it's really, for me, it's a serious issue. Before now, Nigeria has already been placed on visa ban by the United States, because already you've heard the reasons why they had to place us on visa ban as the United States of America. It was as a result of the fact that we do not have enough data, identity data information about those who are traveling to the United States of America, and Nigeria is seen more as a terrorist prone country, and as such, anything about security with Nigeria must be taken seriously. And since our own leadership did not take that seriously, they had to place a visa ban on Nigeria, despite the economic advantages and the bilateral relationship between Nigeria and EU. Nigeria and United States. A review of the performance of Nigerians in the United States clearly shows that we do not have any form of terrorism risk, owing to the fact that more than 59% of Nigerians living in the United States of America are actually of high academic standard. In other words, they say they are in reasonable position of leadership in top United States companies and compared to other countries. But then Donald Trump have his reasons. According to him, security was topmost among the reasons, and refusal of Nigeria to do what they expected us to do since last year. But now it's the turn of the EU, and one of the most bothering aspects of this is the fact that they complain of that our criminal network is very active, and that's not good for us as a country. And according to them, said they want Nigerians to come back. They're doing everything to see how our illegal immigrants who enter EU countries via illegal routes go. In other words, they did not even obtain a visa, but they just enter via different routes. But come to think of it, let's look at these analytically. The truth of the matter is, this is close to impossible. The issue of saying you're going to get back Nigerians from the United States to come back to Nigeria and do what? That's the question. The reason why most of them are passing through different routes to United States and to European countries is not because Nigeria is good enough as a country, but the reason is because they've come to realize it seems there is no hope for this country, especially in the area of job security, in the area of security and the likes. Though the government is doing its bit, trying to put things right, but then their best is not good enough for Nigerians. And because of the teeming and the increasing number of independent Nigerians who are just working without any job there, that's why they are using any route to ensure that they enter into United States, enter into any European country that is vulnerable. So trying to get Nigerians back from United States, from EU countries will be difficult, will be overly difficult. And it's important for Nigerians to let them understand why that will not be possible, because a lot of them will not want to come back home. And secondly, we need to grow to a point where these guys begin to see our presence in their country as being valuable. Look at what they have made mention of. Instead of the good contribution of Nigerians to their own economy, they are talking about the criminal network of Nigerians in United States. Criminality is one of the things that is causing a lot of rancor even in our own country. Every Nigerian seems to be criminal minded, and this is because lesser sanctions have been put on corrupt leaders. Instead of you to deal with them squarely. Imagine just fairly recently we had the case of Boko Haram, who had been killing numerous Nigerians. Instead of the country to prosecute them rightly, instead of that, they allow them to go. They allow them to go, say that they are repented. Some of them have even been given a job, have been given jobs. And this is so bad for our countries, because if you keep pardoning, and not just pardoning, you keep pampering criminality like this, you are encouraging people to get more involved in it. And before you know, they will carry that mindset to any way they find themselves. You cannot enter into a business. Nigerians are one of those in the United States and other EU countries that will bring up opportunity that looks so genuine, but by the time you jump into it, it's a case of 419. But first of all, this thing has gone beyond just individual. It's now a system. And if this system is not dealt with, and there are no stiffer sanctions to anybody involved in any act of corruption, we will continue.